Welcome to the Empower Her Wellness Podcast. I'm Morgan, and I'm thrilled to be your host and wellness coach as we navigate the path to a healthier, more confident you. As the owner of Get Fit With Me, I bring years of experience in personal training, nutrition, and coaching to each episode. Join me as we explore practical tips and strategies for fitness, nutrition, mindset, and more, all tailored for busy women just like you. Let's empower your wellness journey and achieve lasting transformation together. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to an episode of the Empower Her Wellness Podcast. I'm your host and coach, Morgan Ekovich, and today we're going to have a fun discussion from a woman who wears so many hats, and I am so excited to learn from her when we talk about intuitive medium and intuitive development. Specifically as women, I think so often we go on these journeys and we feel like we are the only one going through them. We are the only one with struggles. We're the only one trying to improve ourselves. And we have Anjuli Baraily with us today. And I met her back in, May, I think it was at this point, for a Mother's Day event that Dr. Elena Awala put on. And I'm super excited to have her on. She is opera singer, turned into Reiki master, into intuitive medium, all the way into owning her own facility here in Hazlet, Michigan. So welcome. Happy to have you here.
Thank you. I'm so excited and truly honored to be here. And it was very exciting to meet you back in May. And yeah, I love collaborating like this.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about your experience. How'd you, like when you told me you were an opera singer, I was like, wait, what? So how did you go from that to where you are now and having your studio?
Yeah, I know. I get that question a lot because a lot of people know me as a Reiki practitioner or sitting down with me and doing a reading or intuitive development class. And then they don't know that I'm actually a trained opera singer. And that's where I've spent the majority of my life. And so, yeah, I mean, I grew up with musician parents. I grew up with a dad who was a violinist from India. So that's where my name Anjuli comes from because I was actually born in Darjeeling, India. And so he was a professional violinist. My mom was a singer. And so I just grew up in music. And I think my father definitely wanted me to go towards the violin route, but it was innate in me to be a singer. And so I grew up in Okemos and we had like amazing musicians there. And so I just kept following that route. And I did my undergrad at MSU and I got my degree in opera performance or voice performance. And then I went out to Baltimore to Peabody Conservatory and did a graduate performance diploma out there in opera. And so
Wow.
it was my dream or always my goal to become an opera singer and tour the world, be on the stages and do all the things. And I did that for a little bit. I actually, when I graduated Peabody, I was in Italy for a little bit, a couple of years singing. I spent 2 summers there. And those are some of my best memories to this day. It was, you never know when you're going through a moment how that will forever change your life. So to this day, I still, like when things are stressful, I'll just close my eyes and remember, sitting in like Piazza Navona in the middle of Rome and just sipping wine and getting ready to sing. But ultimately, I decided that stage life was not for me. I really wanted a family. I wanted to settle down. My parents, as much as I loved them and they were lovely people, we had a pretty chaotic upbringing. We moved a lot. And so touring and just going like from performance to performance, it wasn't me. I needed to settle down. I needed a rock. I needed like a home base. And so I ended up in 2005 opening up a studio of voice students. And so I started teaching and and I love teaching. That's always been my thing. I'm an only child, so I would spend hours as a kid just on my little dry erase board or chalkboard back then in the 80s, I guess, chalkboard, like drawing math equations for my little stuffies, that I had all. So I always wanted to be a teacher. Yes, I opened up my own studio and I've been teaching now for 20 years. Yeah, it's exactly 20 years right now.
Congrats. That's
Yeah,
amazing.
it's amazing. And the journey of teaching and learning how to just singing was so innate in me. It was something that came naturally. So I really had to take a journey of how do I teach this to others? How do I teach this to people who really want to sing and love to sing, but have no idea how to produce these sounds? And so to break it down for them in bite-sized pieces and in a way that was accessible, that took a while. That's been a journey for me, but I have loved it. And then I think honestly, the transition then into energy work and all of that, it was kind of seamless because, and I was thinking about this last night, I was thinking about this particular question last night. When you're a musician, yes, you need to know the technique. Yes, you need to know the skills, and especially opera. Opera is very there's no wiggle room. Everything is
Mm.
just very technically done. And but along with that, being a musician, it's like you really have to feel the energy of the music. You have to feel your instincts. You have to like deeply embody what you are feeling and singing. And so I feel like that for me was just who I was. I was always intuitive. I could always feel things. I'm an empath, which I'll get into like what does that mean in a little bit. And I think a lot of your listeners are probably going to relate to being sensitive, being empathic. And when I would sing, there's another thing that would happen is I would feel colors around music. And so that was a whole nother thing that I didn't really know what the words were until later in life, until most recently. So I had sort of this synesthesia where in my brain I would feel a color surrounding a note.
Ah.
It's wild. And growing up in the 80s and 90s, nobody talked about this. Nobody, I mean, my mom was like, I would tell her, and she was loved it. She was so supportive, but she didn't truly understand what I was feeling or seeing. And so, being a musician, all that's to say is that it was a natural journey then into exploring my intuition deeper. What is it I'm feeling? What is it I'm seeing? Why is it that when I sing a note, I can feel that down to my core? When I'm standing on stage, it was never about the accolades. That's the other reason I didn't go into professional performing then is I wasn't actually comfortable with like the accolades. It was more about creating the community with somebody and I could see their emotions on the face when I would sing and then I would get emotional. So it was more about that vibe that was happening. I think it was when I had my son in 2012 and I said to my husband, I really need to explore. Like, I've just become a mother, and this part of me is, and maybe many of your listeners can relate to this. Something is like being birthed inside of me. Like, I'm a mother now, I'm caring for another person. I'm feeling the need to connect on a much deeper level.
Mm.
And I was like, I need to go on a retreat. And I saw this one that had to do with Reiki. And I'm like, I always knew what Reiki was, but I didn't quite know what it was at the same time. So I'm like, and he's like, okay, go for it. So I left my 8-month-old son with him for like 4 or 5 days. And I went off on this little retreat and I got certified in Reiki. And
That's
it was literally like the pieces of the puzzle finally came together. Yes, I was this musician. Yes, I was this opera singer. I'm a mom, I'm a wife. But then to learn energy work and to learn like how you connect to people on a spiritual level, it was finally that missing piece that I had been looking for. And so that was 2012. And I didn't end up doing anything professionally with it until 2019.
wow. And so, for people who don't know what Reiki is, can you give just a little bit of what it is, who it's for,
Yeah,
type of just kind of a generalization on it?
Reiki is an ancient Chinese technique that utilizes energy to clear your chakras. A practitioner can basically take their hands and put them above another person, almost like in a massage setting, but without hands on touching. You can touch, but you don't have to. And you use your hands to channel energy, which is really your own life force, your own intuition, your own essence, to channel energy to clear and clean, but also to feel what's going on another person's energetic system.
Mm.
Which sounds really vague. I know it's not like the best explanation of the whole thing. It's really hard to describe Reiki. Reiki is using our soul given gift of energy and intuition to work with another person. And we work specifically on chakras. So we work on the root chakra, the sacral chakra, the third eye chakra, the throat, all the energy centers on our bodies that carry and hold on to pain, memories,
Mm.
disease in the body. A lot of Reiki beliefs is that disease and all of that comes from emotional trauma or things that
Mm.
have not been cleaned and cleared and released. And so eventually they manifest into physical things in the body.
Which I think is so true. I think there's so many times we have emotional things that we haven't healed, and it
Yeah.
they come out at weird times too. I know like certain stretches. Yoga is definitely one that you'll just randomly, you may burst out into tears. I've done it, or you may be next to somebody who they've done something to finally release some of
Yes.
that emotion that has been inside of them. That there's so many different ways to release that.
So many different ways. And as a human, we carry everything. We carry the memories of our childhood, the parents, our, generational trauma. We carry so much, just our day to day stresses, the pressures that we put on ourselves, the goals that we're trying to attain. All of that lives in our body in an energetic way. And
Mm.
so you're absolutely right, whether it's through Reiki, whether it's through yoga, whether it's through breath work, whatever somatic way that you're able to release some of that is powerful.
And then where does intuitive medium come in? Is that a part of Reiki, or is that like, I'm going to call it like a stem off, like a tree branch off of it? So is it connected, or are they like two separate trees?
That's such a good question. So, for me personally, when I did that training in 2012, it was like a light bulb went off. It finally gave me the language to utilize what I could feel so strongly in my body, not only
Mm.
during my singing and music, but just as a human. So, for me, a medium, my mediumship abilities started to come out once I was able to unlock the energy work. Not for everybody. Some people, because we all have different abilities, for some people, it might be medical healing. Some people who are Reiki practitioners, they may work on somebody and go, oh, wow, I'm feeling something in the liver. This is just an
Mm.
intuition that comes to them. I'm feeling something in the liver. This feels like some like liver enzymes that are a little bit on the high side. So they might relay that to their client, and then their client does go get blood work, and sure enough, they've got high liver enzymes, and so they were able to catch that. And so for other people, it kind of depends on, like you said, the tree branch. It's like what branches of the tree are you kind of leaning towards? For me, it's the mediumship. When I work on somebody, I usually oftentimes will have a departed grandma come by, or
Mm.
maybe a spouse that has passed away recently. Suddenly I can just feel and sense their presence. And then as I lean towards that, and in my intuitive abilities I've had to develop over the years, I'm able then to go further and ask, okay, who am I feeling standing next to me? This feels like a male.
Mm.
How does this person feel in relation to this client? It feels like their husband. Ooh, okay, this is their husband that's passed. Does this feel more recent of a passing? Is this something longer? So for me, then it took me several years, and I'm still developing it to this day because I don't think we ever finished developing. That took me several years to just keep leaning into that tree branch and going, okay, what is it that's happening? Why is it when my hands are on this person, am I suddenly feeling like a mom figure around me, or
Mm.
whatever? Yeah. And so oftentimes my sessions, I call it intuitive Reiki because it ends up then going into a mediumship session with the client and saying, hey, your husband has a message for you. If you're comfortable, would you be okay with me sharing that with you?
That's crazy. That like in the sense of like the feeling that you get that you didn't know what that was for the longest time.
No.
That you knew you had this special thing and you just weren't sure what it was. And then you found the thing that made it make sense. And that's the crazy
Yeah.
part is like we go through life feeling a certain way, feeling like I'm different, or this only makes sense to me. And some of us may never find that clicking point. But like you found that one retreat and you found that clicking point like
Yes.
immediately, it sounds like, which is amazing.
Yes. I love that. When you're immersed in the journey, you may not look back and realize, oh, yeah, that was a
Mm.
pivotal moment for me. But you're right, that helped me so much. I was overwhelmed as a new mom. I also had been teaching for several years, and I knew that there was just something more. And I felt some shame in not having pursued my opera career. There was a lot
Mm.
of shame around that. But now looking back, 13 years later, I guess, 12 years, whatever it is, I guess what I can say to that is there was a reason I didn't pursue that singing career, because it's led me then to what I ultimately ended up opening, which was, yeah, my business, Lyric Awakening.
That's so awesome. So, can we dive into intuitive development a little bit? So,
Yes.
you teach classes. Who do you work with? So, this podcast is specifically for women. So,
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to women and intuitive development, I do believe us as humans, we all have a feeling. We all have some sort of intuition. But I think as women, we tend to have a little bit different than men do. So like how do you help women with that intuitive development session? And why is it important for us to like actually lean into it instead of just kind of avoiding it or masking a feeling?
So this might, okay, that's such a beautiful question. And honestly, this takes me back to my own journey. I think the women or the clients that are attracted to me tend to be in that, I'm going to say 30s to 50 age range. It's the age range of, okay, I'm a little bit older now. I'm starting to get to know who I am, but I also realize I'm carrying a lot of maybe generational trauma. I'm carrying a lot of patterns that are no longer healthy for me, the people pleasing, the codependency, things like that. I'm starting to wake up to the fact that these patterns no longer work. And I'm also starting to feel things in my gut that are not necessarily aligned with where I'm at in my life right now. So now what
Mm.
do I do? Where do I go next? That's who comes to me because that is where I have been and where we all, I think, many of us women find ourselves. So I think where I want to go with this question is, if you don't mind, I want to start at the point of how Lyric Awakening started
Yeah, let's do
and
it.
then dive in. Okay. So in 2019, my mother died, and that was a shock to my system. She was like my entire world. I was an only child. She was my everything. She was very troubled. She had a difficult life, but she also was my rock. She was my biggest supporter.
Mm.
And she died really suddenly. And I was not ready for that. And my son was only 6 at the time, and that was his grandma. And it was really, really, it was a big one for me. It was the catalyst of deep, deep pain and sadness, but also what came out of that was this idea that, okay, this person who raised me, who I have learned so much from, who has suddenly died, I now realize that I have this amazing person on the other side. So, what that ended up doing then is my mediumship abilities kind of went into overdrive. I
Mm.
suddenly could feel my mom. I could hear her. I could hear her guiding me. I could hear her singing. She was a singer just like myself. So, I could hear her always humming in my ear. And one of the things I heard was her from her was, come on, baby, it's time. It's time to open up this business. It's time to lean into your
Mm.
spirituality. It's time to take your music. It's time to start helping people. And so, I mean, it was like late 2019, early 2020, and I started Lyric Awakening. And I was like, okay, I'm a singer, I'm a teacher, but now I'm going to be an energy practitioner. I'm going to do intuitive development. I'm going to give readings to people. And what I saw coming to me was women just like myself, women who had either
Mm.
just gone through a giant loss, women who have maybe they're in later in the life in their career and they're like, I don't want to be doing this anymore. I've been living my life for everybody else. I've raised
Mm.
children or I'm in the midst of raising children. I've had a spouse that I've been codependent on since I was 21, all the different things. And they're like, I'm starting to feel nudges. I want to literally just quit my job and move to Colorado and start a farm and start a retreat. And these were the people that were starting to come to me. And I was like, yes, and let's figure this out for you. And so you're going back to your original question, what does intuitive development do for women? It allows them to access that part of that deepest part of themselves that's telling them, yes, this is what I want. Yes, this is what I need. Yes, I have a child or children and I have a spouse and I have this job, but is this necessarily filling me up anymore? I'm starting to read things on, for instance, they might say, I'm starting to read things on social media about codependency, and I'm realizing I've been in a codependent relationship for 15 years where I'm always taking the emotional load of the people around me, and I'm not living a life for myself. And then I'll say to them, well, what is it you truly want? If you could do anything, and they might answer, I want to quit my job and I want to open up this retreat center. And so it's learning to follow those intuitive nudges, which are so quiet. That's the trick. Intuition is quiet and steady. It has nothing to do with the ego and the mind. The mind is loud and it's fear based. The intuition is quiet, it's steady, and it's filled with a sense of yes. It's filled
Mm.
with yes and what else?
So I okay, I've got so many questions. So because I'm in that third, I turned 30 in September. So in a month, I will turn 30. And so I'm kind of in that age range and of that you mentioned in the beginning. And I do think that just in general, once I didn't think I would feel that way, but I feel a little bit more settled, obviously, than when I was in my 20s. So
Yeah.
I even start to feel a sense of like, is this where we want to stay? Do we want to travel more? Like creating some of those thoughts and just having those conversations. But I also think some of the time, how do we prompt, or I don't want to use the word train, but I'm going to use the word train, like train ourselves to think about what we really want on a regular basis and instead of volcano has erupted and it's all here now. So is there a
Mhm.
way that we can kind of slowly start to move into it instead of the volcano's at the head, it's going to pop, I'm going to blow. Now I need to make a drastic change. Is there a way to kind of navigate that so we can be in those yeses and we can be feeling and leaning into our intuition every day instead of waiting till that breaking point?
Yes. Oh, your questions are really good.
Oh, thanks.
Really good. So, the majority of people come when they've reached the volcano point because that is clear, that's literally your inner being saying enough is enough. And that's usually when we finally listen because then it's finally loud.
Mm,
So, how do you catch that beforehand? The way we catch that beforehand is we learn to quiet ourselves every single day. That
mm,
means find pockets in your day every single day, whether it's 5 minutes, maybe 10. Go on a grounding walk. So keep your phone at home, keep your iWatch at home, anything that has like devices that can go off, keep everything at home. Go outside and just take a mindful walk. Listen to the birds. So listen, find 4 things you can listen to, find 3 things you can see. You may have heard this practice before.
no.
No? Okay.
No, I haven't. So it's four we hear, three we see.
Yep, or it can be, I mean, sometimes I do it where I'm just like, what are 4 things I see? What are 4 things I can hear right now? So oftentimes it's like I hear a mower in the distance. I hear a couple of birds up ahead, kind of to my left. I'm hearing a car going by. Oh, now I'm starting to hear a dog way in the distance. So things that you normally would just tune out.
Ah,
What are 4 things you can now see? I see like the dandelions are starting to come up and they've gone from yellow to that white kind of color where they get all wispy. I'm starting to see a red truck go by. Now I'm seeing a robin like looking for like worms to give to its mate. So just tuning in to those subtleties that you normally do not pay attention to, it starts to drop you out of your brain, out of your ego. I'm going to use the word ego in place of brain because ego is that constant thought pattern, that constant, what time is it? I got to be here. It's time for the gym. I got to get that meal prep done. I got to da 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 da. That's ego,
mm,
which is a beautiful thing. But if left unattended, it can run amok and
mm.
it can lead your life all over the place. So, dropping out of ego and into the presence is how you find your intuition. So, through those mindful walks, when you're hearing, you're seeing, what can I smell? That's another beautiful one. What can I taste? Okay, I just had some coffee. I'm tasting some lingering of some coffee. I also taste a little bit of that apple I had this morning. I mean, literally, those like tiny little things that we never think about, it quiets you, it quiets your soul, it quiets everything, it quiets the
Mm.
to dos. And then that finally allows you to hear that tiny voice inside that's going, I don't want to do that meeting today. I
Mm.
really need to be out in nature. I need to go take my dog for a walk and just listen to the birds and listen to the river nearby. I need that for myself. That little voice that you wouldn't otherwise hear.
So I think that's amazing. And I love that practice. And a couple months ago, we had Tamara Glenn on to talk about meditation. And she talked about getting outside. So I love the tool you just gave there. Because one, this
Yeah.
podcast is all about implementation. What can we do rather than just consuming all the time? So, taking that outside time, but also pairing it with those senses, the hearing, the seeing, all of those.
Yes.
You mentioned the leaning in and hearing, okay, I really don't want to do that meeting. I instead want to go out and walk. Where does that and then the doing that meeting is not really an option? Because I think that also is we may listen to that, but then we'll feel guilty like, well, I can't lean into it because like I have to go and do that meeting. So like where
Mm-hmm.
does that balance come in? Whether it's I don't want to parent today. Well, you're the only solo parent. You have to parent. There
Yep.
are have tos in life, but there's also listening.
Love it. Yes, 100%. So I'm going through that journey right now in my personal life where there are some have tos, but the trick is I'm choosing to not abandon myself in those have tos. So in the have tos, I am being very intentional of, yes, I need to attend that meeting. Yes, I need to parent my son. However, in doing that, I'm going to be fully present. And then when I'm done, I'm going to come right back to myself. And what do I need? Do I need a walk? Do I need to go take a long shower? Here's another beautiful tool: getting in the hot shower, wiping literally off the energy from the day. So you just went and did that meeting that you really didn't want to do. Jump in the shower, or even just warm water with your hands at the sink. Literally wash off the energy of whatever that meeting felt like today. If it felt heavy, or whatever that thing was that you had to do that you really couldn't get out of, literally wash it away. Because the energy of that, the energetic strands that we pick up of those have tos eventually weigh us down. So it's finding that balance. So to answer that question, it's finding the balance of, yes, I need to do this, but I'm not going to abandon myself in the process. I'm also going to know what are the things I need to bring myself back to me. So after I'm done with that, have to getting some water, getting a snack, a nutritious snack, maybe sitting for a moment, closing my eyes with a hand on my heart, just taking some long deep breaths. I do this one a lot. This one is a big one for me. I just put my hand on my heart and I take some nice long deep breaths and I say, what do you need right now? And that just takes a minute or two of my day. And every time I do that, I build that relationship with myself where I'm here for you. I'm not abandoning you. I'm right here. And what do you need?
And how can we tell that the practices that we're doing on a daily basis are impacting us or are being successful? Because when I work with clients, we track, for instance, like we track our water, we track
Mm-hmm.
our how often we've moved just to see are we being consistent? Are we not? Are we seeing progress? And
Mm-hmm.
so like how can we I don't want to say quantitatively see progress in feelings, but like how can we note like, wow, I really have made progress? Because I think often we don't think we've made progress. We think, nope, I'm the exact same person I was. But you look back 5 years, you're like, oh, I'm not. But it takes so long. So how can we see progress in all this?
Okay, so it depends on how you're tracking progress. So if you're tracking progress physically, I've achieved this, I've done X, Y, Z. Or are we talking about tracking progress of, I feel much calmer in my days. I feel much more balanced and settled. I feel like I can make decisions from a place of empowerment and not from a place of obligation.
Let's do the second one because I think
Okay.
that is I think that's the one that most of us feel like I'm still having an outburst. I'm still angry sometimes. I'm
Yeah.
still sad or like we still feel all these emotions that I think we don't realize that we have all actually made progress in them, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does make sense. And I think that's the way that I track my progress is at the end of the day, do I feel like I stayed in connection with myself all day? Even given the fact that I had a student at 1 o'clock that I taught voice, and then I had a 2:30 Reiki appointment, and then I had a 4 o'clock intuitive development session. So I went from thing to thing, but did I stay true to my needs and myself? And did I carve out moments of, again, closing my eyes, hand to the heart, what do you need right now? I need to go to the bathroom. I haven't gone to the bathroom. I need to get a long drink of water. I need to go out and get some fresh air. When I do that and I make sure to stay truly attentive to myself throughout the day, then at the end of the night, I know that I have not only shown up for my clients and been there in a proactive and present way, but then I've also stayed true to like, what is it you needed in those moments in between? And what do you need now? Now you're coming home to a son and to a husband. Yes, they're going to want all these things from you. And at one day, I would have just, me having been in more of that codependent kind of way, I would have just been like, okay, guys, what do you need now? Can I cook you dinner? Like, my son, what do you need? Now I check in, I give them a hug, and I go attend to myself first.
Mm.
And then also, then can you look back and see physical progress? Because that is important too. Were you able to meet those goals that you had set out? Were you able to show up for your clients? Were you able to show up for yourself at the gym?
Mm.
And do you still feel balanced and happy and not stressed?
I love that. And I like the whole coming into the household, acknowledging us around us or those around
Yes.
you, and then still taking time. Because I think as women and being empathetic and a little bit more sensitive humans, we can be. If you've ever listened to the episode of Dr. Elena Awala, our hormones are
Mm.
so much fun that like sometimes it's not anything that we have done or somebody else has done, that we have just such a big fluctuation and we are always changing minute by minute,
Yeah.
that acknowledging those around us, giving that presence, and then also, okay, I committed to cooking tonight. I'm going to cook, but I need about 5 minutes. I'll be back. Like, I think also communicating that is important.
Oh, 100%. Yes. Honestly, for me, that would lead me into then being a woman, being an empath. What do we do with that? So, being an empath, so what you just described, and I won't speak to the hormones because I don't have an expertise in that at all, but I completely get that. Yes. I mean, our hormones are literally all over the place every day and throughout the month, and it's a hot mess, right? So, we have all of that to deal with. So, I'll talk about what I know best, which is the energy, the empathic way in which we communicate. So, for those of your listeners that don't know what an empath means, an empath is simply, first of all, we're all empaths, period. We're all
Hmm.
souls inside of a human body. That's it. We're all
Huh.
sensitive. We all have intuition. We all have those things. But an empath, so means you are a sensitive soul who feels everything on a physical level. So not only do you notice somebody's in a bad mood, you can feel that. You can physically
Mm.
feel that. You can walk into your home and your husband is like, "Hey, how are you?" And you're like, "Good, how are you?" And he's like, "Great." But you can feel something else under that. There's something that you cannot see or hear, but you can feel it. So all of us humans can feel that. We can feel energy. It's just some of us are a little more tuned in than others. It could be from the way we were raised. Maybe it was more talked about, it was more understood. It could be some, like you had said earlier, sometimes females tend to be a little bit more empathic or tuned in than maybe men. Not always, but sometimes. And then some people are just sensitive souls. They just really sensitive souls. They just feel everything on a very physical level. So as an empath, it is a beautiful, beautiful skill. It's something that allows me in my world to be of best service to others because I can literally feel people. I can feel their uncomfortability. I can feel their nervousness. I can feel if they feel powerful and courageous. And I love feeling that because I can't do casual talk. I can't just be like, "Hey, how are you? Good, how are you?" No, screw that. Being an empath can also be a tricky thing because if you don't know this ability and you don't know how to work with it, it can also run amok. So, like
Mm.
going back to the analogy of walking home and your family's there, the way it can run amok is 13-year-old teenager is like, "Hey, mom, how are you?" And you're like, "Good, how did soccer practice go?" And then he starts going off about all like so and so did this, they didn't pass the ball, and da 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 da. And then the husband comes in and he's like on his phone, he's got a work email going on, and maybe you've got a daughter running around and she's like on her little cell phone and she's in that bratty teenage phase. So there's a lot going on in that moment when you're walking in, and as an empath, you're going to feel all of that.
Mm.
And as an empath, you're going to feel responsible because people who are sensitive feel responsible for others. They feel responsible to help
Mm.
shift the mood of others, help take on maybe some of the negativity of others. It's just this innate sense of caretaking and helping. It comes with being an empath.
Mm.
And so many women, I think, feel burdened and they feel bogged down by the responsibility of family, of work, of friendships, because they can just feel everything. I have a couple of other kind of cool ideas of like for your listeners. So if they want to ask themselves, well, am I truly an empath? Which let me say again, we're all empaths,
Yeah.
right? We're all empaths. But how do you know like what dial you're at? Are you like really empathic? Or you kind of got that dial turned down? You've kind of dulled it. Okay, so another one is you can tell when somebody's lying. So when you're talking to somebody and they're like, oh yeah, this, and they're chipper and they're talking away, but you can just feel that something isn't right. Something doesn't sound right. It's not genuine. Maybe it's
Mm.
somebody you just even met for the first time. And you're like, God, they seem really nice. They seem really cool. There's something about their vibes that I'm just not loving. So that's one.
Okay. Yeah. No, so I'm like trying to think right now of like, is there a situation I've been in? But I feel like learning all this and looking back is not going to do me any good. It's like learning this and moving forward
Word.
because current situations is now what I'm like, oh, so now if I feel this way, like that may mean something. Whereas looking back, I'm like, I don't remember that conversation even well enough to try to figure out if I was or not in that. So, okay, so that's one
Yeah,
of them.
that's one of them. It's feeling and relating to people on a deeper level. So some people are very surfacey. You're like, oh my God, hi, how are you? You're great. Yeah, I have this podcast. And you're like, oh, sweet. And you're talking and it's very surfacey. But people who like feel things on an emotional level are like, wow, this person seems really nice and great, but there's something I'm just not feeling comfortable with. The next one will be empaths. People are drawn to empaths. So if in your life you have people that come and just share everything, they just like, oh my God, this is going on in my life. And they just basically dump everything onto you because, like, as I said earlier, at empath, they innately feel the need to caretake and care for
Mm.
others. And we'll get into how to learn boundaries around that and how to learn energetic boundaries so that you are not responsible for everybody. But that is another sign as people come to you and are like, here's my life in a nutshell, even strangers at a grocery store.
I get that one. And it's funny because I think I get that more from strangers and people who I'm not as close with compared to people who I am really close with. And I don't know if that's because we've built the relationship, but what it is. But no, I totally feel that there. And like my mom has always said, she's like, I could put you in a room with 100 people and you'd come out with 100 friends. Like I have always been that person. And I get the like the non-surface levelly conversations, but there's times where like my brain is only that. I'm like, I'm
Yep.
drained. That's what
Yep.
I want. And then there's others where I'm like, oh, how's your grandkid? They're like, you remember I had a grandkid? You met me once 3 months ago. I'm like, yeah. How are they doing? So there's like that. I feel like there's a
Yeah.
little bit of mix in all of them you can be, right?
Yes,
Or
yes,
okay.
yes, yes. And and it depends on how much you're aware too, your awareness. If you're aware that you have these other sides of you, but you also need to operate from another place, then you might operate from that place, but then you might intentionally decide to drop in a little deeper into your body, a little deeper into your heart space, and relate to people from a little bit of a different level. So, yeah, it's just kind of the awareness of where you're at and what you need from that day. The kind of work that I do, I tend to just stay dropped in all the time. When I'm teaching my
Mm.
voice lessons, yes, it's technical. I have to teach them mouth position, how to use their breath, all that thing. But I'm also feeling them on like a instinctual level. And so I tend to stay in that like deeper space all the time with my clients.
Got it. Okay. So, as we are getting close to the end here, I think we could talk about this for like a whole nother hour. But I would honestly would rather have people contact you and ask you and work with you because we are also individualized. And that's also what I love by having
Yeah.
so many different guests on is you guys are all aligned in the same sense of yes, us as humans, we have similarities, but we are 100% different than the person next to us. And we need to be treated that way when we are looking to grow physically, mentally, emotionally, nutritionally, whatever that
Yes.
looks like. Do you mind sharing a little bit about, and you can share anything from your singing and your voice lessons all the way
Mhm.
to Reiki? Like, what types of things do you offer? Groups, one-on-ones? What are some of the things that, how can people work with you?
Yeah. So if you are interested in singing, I teach one-on-one voice lessons. I do them in my studio in Hazlitt, but I also do them online. So that would be through Zoom, which amazingly enough is beautiful. I have my laptop that sits on top of my computer. I have a little camera and a microphone, and we, just like you and I are talking right now, we have our lesson. So that's an amazing way. So if you want to learn voice, I teach from a classical standpoint, meaning you learn proper diaphragmatic breathing, you learn proper mouth position, you learn the different registers of your voice. But then from there, we can learn any genre, whether it's Broadway, pop, jazz, whatever you want to learn. So it doesn't have to be just classically based singing.
Is there an age? Sorry, is there an
Oh,
age range that
yeah.
you teach?
Yes, good point. So right now, my youngest is 15. I don't like to go too much younger than that. That's kind of an exception to the rule. To be honest, I would say 18 and over. And
Okay.
so my range tends to be in 20s and 30s and 40s. I do, no, that's not true. It's like 20s to 50s.
Okay.
Yeah,
Awesome. Yeah, no, because I know there's a lot of moms. So I just wanted to make sure that you didn't do
a
like
lot of
little
moms.
littles to,
Yes,
or and it's like no more for that older teen into early adulthood and
yes,
adulthood. Okay.
yes. Yep. Yeah, and I actually have a group of kids at Hazlitt High School that I teach after school lessons. I've been going there for about 5 years, 4 or 5 years. And so that's super fun. That fills me up. And then for those that are interested in more of the intuitive, spiritually inclined work, I do my intuitive Reiki sessions. So that's a one on one session where you come and you lay in this room. I've got everything dark. There's just a little diffuser going. It's really beautiful, a little bit of music. And I work on you for an hour and we go through everything that came through, whether it was messages of loved ones that have come through that are going to help with your healing. It could be physical ailments in your body that I'm picking up that we talk about. Anything that is clogged or like needs unblocking, like throat chakra, heart chakra, things like that. And then I've also put together so that's a one-off session. But for those that want a little bit more deeper support, I have a Reiki membership. So that is a
Oh, cool.
once a month. Yeah, I'm really actually super excited about. So I started this about 8 months ago and it's so incredible. I have a group of clients right now that do this, but every month they have a standing appointment, each one individually, and we do our intuitive Reiki session. And then along with that at the end is a bit of intuitive development. So we talk about
Mm.
some of those intuitive abilities that are starting to come out. And then they leave every month with some sort of a tool, whether it is a shadow work journal, which gets into kind of like the deeper parts of you, some of the hidden parts of you that you may keep hidden from others, a guided meditation that I've put together. It could be crystals and some essential oil rollers that will just help them for that month. So every month they leave with something a little bit different.
That's
And
awesome.
all of this can also be done online, believe it or not. So this is not just an in-person thing. I have somebody who is in Finland right now doing it. So it's super cool.
That's so cool.
Yeah, it's very cool because Reiki, okay, so energy knows you don't have to be physically in my space to do energy work. Energy knows no bounds, which is incredible. So I can, while they lay in Finland in their bed in the bedroom in Finland, I can work on them here and then we get together on Zoom afterwards and go over everything. And then lastly, I have readings. So I do mediumship readings if you want to connect with loved ones or just basic psychic readings to kind of find out what's going on in your life presently or maybe where you want to be headed in your life. So I do have readings. And then intuitive development, which is so fun. So intuitive development is group classes. I put together some really fun ones so far. There's a level 1 and a level 2. This is learning the basics of our intuition and how our intuition speaks through us through our different clair abilities, and then with practical exercises. So how to, in a group setting, we actually work together one-on-one or we'll pair off together and they'll work on different abilities or different exercises that I put. And that is super, super fun. And then I do that in a one-on-one setting as well. So I do have a couple clients right now that just come to me weekly and then we do these in a one-on-one setting. And then lastly, I have an incredible, I actually just recorded, I finished a online digital course called Awaken. So for those that just feel like, hey, I just want to do my own thing. I want to be in my bed, with my glass of wine and not be around other people. I have this incredible course. It's a 4 module course and it's developing your intuition. It's called Awaken. And Each module then comes with downloadables so that you can work from home and literally put this stuff into play. How to start moving your life in a direction that you want based solely on what is it you need and want? What is your soul telling you? So that's called Awaken, and right now it's on sale. So it is normally $297, and with the code launch, it's $195. So that's all on my website.
Awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're going to get all of those links. Those will be in the show notes. So if you've been listening and you're like, I want to learn about any of that, check out the show notes, as well as I'll put your email in there so people can
Okay.
message you directly. Because I know sometimes websites are great, but sometimes we just have a question and we want to reach out. I'm also going to make sure she's in our free Facebook group. Remember, that's our community where, like, I want you to call your shot and say, I just listened to this episode and I'm doing this. Like, I want you
Mm.
to take action instead of just consuming all the time. I have really enjoyed our conversation today, and I'm curious about your course as well as the group classes. So I'm going to be checking out your website after to just kind of see what they're like. And I
Yeah.
know you've described where your building is, and I know exactly where it is, and I drive by and I think it's super cute. So
Ah,
I'm going
nice.
to have I'm gonna have to come see you in person.
Yeah.
Um, but before we actually jump off, do you have any last minute tips, suggestions, things for the listeners on whether it's that one piece of takeaway that, like, today
Mhm.
was a lot, you learned a ton, but like if you take one thing away from today, what should it be?
It should be, let's see, intuition is innate in all of us. It is who we are at a soul level. And the biggest thing you can learn is your energetic boundaries. So you are here to relate to people on an energetic, on a intuitive sense, but you are not here to fix or manipulate another person's energy. That is not your job. So you're here to observe, not absorb. So come into space with others, observe what you're seeing and feeling, observe what that's feeling like inside of you, and then reclaim your energy. Put that light bubble around you and say, this is my energy, this is theirs, this is where I end, this is where they begin. Whether that's family member, whether that's a coworker, whether that's a friend, a client, whatever. You are totally autonomous of your own energy at all times.
Mm, I love that. That's a fantastic reminder. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So, for those of you who have continued to stick around, a few reminders here. If you have listened and you've loved this episode, the best way to thank both of us is to open up your phone, push that share button, and share it to social media, or to share it with a woman in your life who you think needs to hear it. Share it with them. Say, I really enjoyed this because. And the more that we can pass this along, the more we can help make each other feel empowered and confident. And we will all remember that we're not going through life alone, because we do feel alone a lot. We feel like I'm the only one working on myself, especially if you're living alone or you're with people in your household that are not on that same journey as you. So share this with somebody else who would benefit. So, with that, anything last minute before we jump off?
No, I'm just thrilled to have been here. I could talk forever about this stuff. It just lights me up. So I really thank you for giving me the space to do that today.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much again for joining us, and we will see you all next Thursday. Thank you for tuning in to the Empower Her Wellness podcast. I hope you found today's episode inspiring and packed with actionable tips. Remember, your journey to becoming the strongest, most confident version of yourself is just beginning. Be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode and join our community of empowered women. Until next time, stay strong and stay confident.